Welcome to the acclaimed podcast, The Deep Dive, featuring your esteemed hosts, Andy Monitor and Drew Dinzik, powered by BetSperts.
Welcome to The Deep Dive. Hope you had a happy 4th of July weekend. I had an all-time great trip to Northern California. I am just on cloud nine. So much fun. And now we get to talk football. So the good vibes continue to roll.
Felt different doing the
vibes continue to roll.
Yeah. It hits a little different doing the football research, getting ready to spit back some stuff at the people. And yeah, it was a fun weekend, long weekend. The Giants are the opposite of fun, Patrick, but they have every team has some bright spots. Every team has some upside. Every team has some win streak, and every team has, a best way to bet them, I guess.
Yes. So if you haven't already figured out, and if you were used to the Deep Dive Daily, where we were chopping it up, having a little fun,
chopping it up,
the format has changed for the foreseeable future. On Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, you will find NFL team-specific previews by the two of us for all 32 teams. And then on Fridays, we'll be back for a Deep Dive Daily, fucking around, talking about our plans for the weekend, giving you the wine recommendations, reviewing our favorite TV and movies, talking about how Sinner could be blowing this opportunity to punch his Wimbledon ticket, which, again, as someone on Alcaraz, don't care.
Yeah, let's go Grigor.
But all of the other sports talk gets put on the shelf because it is time to really fine tune our handicap for the NFL. Andy, do you want to lay out how these previews are generally going to be structured and who our delightful sponsor is?
Yes, these are again brought to you by Circa Sports and their contests with the biggest guaranteed prizes, especially the Survivor, millions and millions of dollars. And I don't know. I think we may have buried the lead when we just keep talking about the millions of dollars. Rope hats. The hats are pretty good this year. So you get a rope hat for each of the entries. You can get both. So try to find your way out there. It's enter in Nevada, play from anywhere. If you need Rex on a proxy, we can certainly give you that. We've been using the same guy for a while. Plenty happy with the service.
You know how long, Andy? 7 years. You want to know how I know that? Because this is millions number 7, lucky number 7 this year. Finally going to ship this sucker, and I cannot. Can't wait. We'll be there in August to sign up and share some adult beverages with whoever happens to be in town that weekend, and I am very much looking forward to that. How do you want to structure these episodes?
So we talked a little. Yeah, we don't do big outlines or structure. We're not big on structure. We don't like to be told what to do, even by ourselves. But I think we're going to try to do an hour tight on these. We're going to try to keep these to an hour, which is tough for us because I've found some of these previous episodes, suddenly we're 25 minutes in talking about the previous year. Well, while that's not, inconsequential, I'm going to try to keep that stuff tight. We're going to do a 5-minute recap of last year. We're going to try to keep that tight. We're going to talk about the changes. We're going to do a rapid rundown of the changes in the coaching, free agency, losses, draft picks, any changes to the roster and our coaching staffs. And then we're going to talk about our anyone who's done this for many years with us. We made a big change last year. We went position group by position group and gave a semi-standardized power rating for each of those, and then came up with a final number based on some formulas we used on how we thought we should weight it. I think it'll be fun to talk about what our final numbers were for 2024 for each team. And, there's not going to be huge adjustments off that, I don't believe. Some teams more than others, but I think that's what will be fun to talk about. Is hey, I'm going to have to upgrade this. I'm going to have to downgrade this. I'm going to have to keep my head on a swivel, especially here. We are sitting in July 7th, long time before football starts. In this example, Andrew Thomas, I don't know if he's going to play. It'd be great. They'd love him to, but I don't think that's a guarantee that he's suiting up, left tackle day one to start the season. That makes a huge difference in my offensive line number. So some of these are going to be, some of these are in pencil, some of these are in pen. And, as we go on through the previews, as we get closer to the season, there'll be a lot more pen because of, the knowledge we'll gain from the preseason and playing who's not. So we'll go through that. We will talk a little bit of a Circa segment. We'll talk about how we envision this team coming into play for a survivor pick down the road.
Oh, that's a cool idea.
Maybe not the greatest example. Yeah, we'll quickly talk about a couple spots in the schedule that every team might be a good survivor usage. And
Giants,
then
week 5 against the Saints.
I mean, so let's say you got to use Thanksgiving. You got to do Christmas extra. So if you make it to the end, you're using 20 teams, which means there's 12 on the shelf. I'm not saying cross 12 off to start your day, but it's probably easier to maybe cross this one off. I think there's a chance to look at other teams who are playing the Giants as possible.
That's a great call.
But I think for some of the shitty teams, that's what we're going to do.
Yes, Giants not going to be favored very often this year, if at all. It's looking rough.
And then we'll go over the schedule.
I will. Spoiler alert: I do not have the Giants as my worst team. I may have them as my fewest wins, but I do not think they are the worst team. There's some positives here for sure. They just happen to be in a really, 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 really unfortunate situation, like my least favorite situation, which is entering the final year of a failed regime. This is kind of the vibes here.
Somebody said this really well in an article I think I read. So the timelines don't align.
Correct. That
is
a 100%. Yes.
This is a longer term rebuild, and the coaching staff and the GM are not able to look at that from a longer term rebuild. So when the timelines don't align and not everybody is, you basically have an organization, whether it's a football team, a sports team, or, it's an insurance company. If not everyone is shooting for the same goals, short and long term, you're not going to have success. And it creates a bit of an issue problem here. So I guess, obviously the hot seat stuff is a big question of, how the season goes. And I think that while maybe that's not a huge betting angle, it definitely affects the possible quarterback benching situation.
That's the entire question about these guys.
Yeah, that's the biggest part about this season. And that's a fun spot for the schedule too, looking at
Russell Wilson makes over under 4.5 starts, right? Like at what point do they just take the keys away from Dable and say, look, it's time to start Dart. Like we're not winning this year. Like I don't care if Russell Wilson gives you a much, much higher likelihood of winning enough games to save your jobs. You are done. We need to see Dart now that the decision has been made for you. Like we're heading to that point. We know it's coming.
Dable has one set of goals and one vision, but you kind of said it well there. There could be ultimatum from above. Like this is where kid's starting. The kid's starting now. All the reports from camp right now are he looks better than a lot of the beat writers are cautiously optimistic with a side of he's not ready for day one. Like I do not want this kid starting week one, but I can't remember who the beat writer said who was, but he said if he had to, it wouldn't be an utter disaster. And this is a guy who he said, I've covered Darnold, I covered Zach Wilson, I covered some bad starting quarterbacks early in their careers, like
Eli.
Eli wasn't great.
Eli's year one was a nightmare.
But they did say, like the kid has a certain je ne sais quoi. Nobody used that term, but they said he does have an air about him where it seems
he's
like
got that Ole Miss terroir. Yeah,
he could step in. So let's quick do a 2024 recap. Let's start with that.
It was bad, but not bad enough to get them Cam Ward. mission failed. That's kind of all I got, man. I
This
didn't
was-
bet these guys much.
No.
What was the final? Okay, I
3 and 14.
stopped tracking my power rating on them, and I stopped betting them around week 10, because then it was just like unclear what the plan was. Right, that Jones gets ultimately snipped, and after they were playing him as I remember them playing him as the safety on the scout team. You remember that? Before they ultimately cut him and they gave the keys to Drew Lock. What a disaster of a season. They won 3 games. My PyBag calc says they should have won about 4.5. So they underachieved by about 1.5 wins. They overachieved in terms of getting themselves out of purgatory, though, because there's really only one quarterback in last year's draft who we think is going to be a guy, and that was Cam Ward, who went first to the Titans, and the Giants didn't get him. And a big reason they didn't get him is because they beat the Colts, second to last game of the season, with Drew Lock under center, and they took the Colts out of playoff contention. They probably got Gus Bradley fired. They might have gotten Anthony Richardson fired. Ironically, Daniel Jones took over. Could steal. Indiana Jones could steal that job. But yeah, they were a really, really messy team. When we got to week 10, when I stopped really keeping track of them from a number standpoint, I was at a -7 for them. They were my 32nd power ranked team at that point. My preseason ranking for them, by the way, was 29th. So they fell, but it wasn't that far. As I look at sort of the way that I rated them in the preseason relative to where they were when I kind of stopped keeping track week 10, my biggest downgrades was to the pass rush. The pass rush really didn't live up to expectation last year. But some of that is because Dexter Lawrence got hurt. Eventually, they put him on ice. But I would say the general kind of sliding scale down of the Giants, it was mostly performance based, some injury, and then eventually when the quarterback situation fell apart, they were just season was over. So they didn't fire Dable, they don't fire Shane.
A bit of an ugly parting with Daniel Jones, but it's one where it's like, this is business. Everybody kind of said, well, this is business. And when they finally did release him and let him go, grab on with another team, that seemed like the right move as well. So I'm happy they did that, because it's the right job as an organization to probably tank at that point. I started them out as a -6-ish, 6.5. They peaked for me around week 6. If you remember, they were 2-3 to start the season.
They beat Seattle in a surprising game, right?
They were showing some weird signs of life. They were a hard team. So they peaked for me around week 5. And then the middle of the season, kind of hemming and hawing around -4, -5. And then when they did go at the benching, obviously that was even, the bottom fell out. I had them as a -8 at the very end. They were my worst team. I had them slightly behind, like New England, Las Vegas, New Orleans.
Okay.
I think it's going to be better this year, but obviously you never know with injuries. Some of that was, hey, your tackle's injured. Hey, one of your pass rushers injured. Hey, obviously the big part is benching your good quarterback, going with, much worse options than that. Not having good surprises from really any of the other wide receivers. I'd say the only positive surprise, Tracy was good. That was it wasn't expected. It wasn't expected to be your lead back, he took advantage. He had like 1,200 yards.
I guess if you're saying you were expecting a 0 and you got a 2, yeah, you exceeded.
Well, I kind of want to, I want to say bad offensive line and decent production. I'm going to give you a little bit of shine.
They were bottom 5 EPA per rush.
Yeah.
Actually, they weren't bottom. They were 21st. I guess, they weren't as bad a rushing team as I remember for some reason. Most of their issues was quarterback. Okay. All right.
Quarterback, offensive line, and
correction, retraction. Yeah. I give Tracy a bit of a mea culpa there. All right. So their win total last year was 6.5. So it was expected to be bad. It was worse than that. You're right. They covered. They were frisky. They won outright as dogs at Cleveland week 3. They covered a big number by the skin of their teeth against Dallas in primetime. I forgot we had to watch that game.
Yeah.
And then they won outright as 7-point dogs at Seattle. And at 2 and 3, they had 3 covers in a row. The vibes were high, and then they lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games in a row before finally beating Indy in week 16. They covered once in that stretch. It was the home game against New Orleans where they were 5-point dogs, where they lost 14-11. I forgot that game happened. There were some bad Giants football on.
They had a loss where they didn't allow a touchdown.
They had a loss where they didn't allow a touchdown. That's right.
I believe. I think it was 5 or 6. I think they were 0 for
7 field goals for Washington, right?
Yeah, it was 7 field goals.
Oh.
But I think they were 0 for on 2-point conversions.
Oof.
Or something weird like that. Because in that game, I think they were 0 for 2. They missed an extra point and one more thing, and then you lose by a couple points, leaving 5-6 points on the field like that. Which in the end turned out being good. You did get you didn't get the quarterback, but you got a high draft pick.
During the competitive portion of their season, their defense was not the problem. The defense was it wasn't good. And maybe it wasn't as good as they were hoping it could be. Particularly the coverage was no good. But they were at least keeping them in games. It was just that the offense was giving them a 0, particularly the quarterback position. And the Daniel Jones experiment came to a crashing end. And then to add salt to the wound for their season last year, Andy, Saquon Barkley left and had an Offensive Player of the Year campaign for their rivals in Philly, and then won a Super Bowl. So fun times to be in the Big Blue household there. They were under. They were under darlings, 11 unders, 6 overs, ultimately 5 and 12 against the spread. So disappointing season if you were betting the Giants. Let's talk about the offseason. Unless you have anything else, final thoughts.
No, let me rip through them and you give quick thoughts, and I will retort with anything I think you missed. Russell Wilson signed 1 year, $20 million.
Why?
21 million.
Why?
I guess I would have gone cheaper. You don't need the best veteran quarter. I get the bringing in a veteran to play a few games before you go to the rookie, if that was always the plan.
Jameis is more fun, and he's going to throw the interceptions you need to give you the excuse to bench him. Russell Wilson's maybe not going to do that.
They got Jameis for 8. That would have been fine. Just go ahead and use anything. You're not out there trying to win a bunch of games, I guess. So Russell Wilson obviously stepped back, very much less mobile than he used to be.
Very much.
He's 36. He's behind a bad offensive line, most likely. Stopgap. I don't love it. I understand the thought process. So Paulson Adebo, cornerback. This is the big one. 3 years, $54 million. Needed.
Good
you
job.
Need a CB1.
Good job identifying the need.
Mm-hmm.
Paulson Adebo does not move the needle for me. He only started 7 games last year, so it was an injury-riddled, abbreviated season. Tough to make a full evaluation, but I kind of always had him as tapped as a little bit overrated. And I'd rather see snaps for Adebo than Cordero Flott, who was a huge part of the problem in the secondary for the Giants last year. So that should presumably be an upgrade, but. No, they needed an overhaul in the secondary, and Adebo and Javon Holland. I don't know that really qualifies.
It's an upgrade, but it's not like a oh shit, we fixed everything kind of upgrade. I think it's a good signing, not great.
Okay.
Obviously, he broke his femur. That's not one of those that you walk off. Season's done. I was in, like you said, it was in week 7, week 8, somewhere there. A bit penalty prone.
Yeah.
He has a lot of flags if you look over his career. But that's something that I think comes with time. You see these savvy vets that, man, look how he got away with that by, doing what he did and the ref didn't see it, and it's clearly a penalty. Like, maybe that comes with time. So he is going to be tapped to be the guy. Like you said, Javon Holland, they signed a safety. Xavier McKinney left and was pretty good. He's another vet-ish kind of guy, and I think with the other young safety
too.
But you have some upcoming safeties. Like, it's another leadership kind of spot, and it's certainly not going to be, hey, it's Super Bowl or bust year.
Okay.
Slayton, wide receiver Darius Slayton re-signed for 3 more years.
Javon Holland, maybe he's a young player. Maybe I shouldn't be so quick to judge, but he's been a very average safety for his 4 years he spent in Miami. He was generally available, but I'm not seeing anything in his numbers that really stands out as this guy's a huge difference maker, and that's kind of what you needed. So I don't know. I was unimpressed with their free agency generally, mostly because I just don't get the Russell Wilson and Jameis move, one or the other. And I'm like, I'm not inspired by the Russell Wilson move, but I get it. The Jameis Winston move, I was like, oh, that's fun. Like, at least you're going to give your fans something to be entertained by before, whatever the next project you usher in the door, like that'll be of interesting. I'd rather the Giants were interesting than just bad and boring. The draft I didn't love. I mean, look, Abdul Carter was by a lot of a lot of talent evaluators, a top 2 player in this draft, certainly a top 3 player in this draft. And they just ended up taking best player available rather than addressing need, because that pushes Kayvon Thibodeau, another high draft capital player, down the depth chart. It's they I think are in we're willing to move on from Thibodeau kind of headspace. They know that they have an absolute beast in the middle in Dexter Lawrence. That guy is no doubt, kind of going to be in the mix for all pro, and should be every year that he's healthy. He only got 12 games last year, and he was their most valuable player by my numbers. Malik Neighbors was very close. He played 15 games, only started 13. But you had pretty high standout performances from Lawrence and Neighbors. And if you get a full season from those 2 guys this year, at least you should have a little bit higher floor with defense and offense. Brian Burns, I thought, still has something in the tank. They had better linebacker play than I would have guessed, just looking at sort of the numbers. McFadden was perfectly fine on the inside. Okiriki was fine on the inside. Their front 7 overall, just on paper, looks good. And so adding Abdul Carter to that should maybe make good great, but shouldn't, but I don't know that without addressing the coverage, this is going to be one of our surprise. Wow, that Giants top 5 defense. Who saw that coming? I just not seeing it with the secondary.
No, and the only thing I will say to push back on that is sometimes we do see, hey, the secondary is like mid plus, where, hey, this is a nice signing, but this isn't a world mover. You get 3 or 4 of those, and you get a guy like Nubbin who plays a little better. You get something out of one of these other corners. You have a good nickel corner. If the pass rush is elite and they keep Thibodeau and it's just this rotation Philadelphia style where everybody's good no matter what, and they can play a guy like Abdul Carter like you did with like Jalen Carter, where it's like, hey, he's playing like 30% of snaps and he's making a difference, where these guys can stay fresh and they have a really good pass rush. It helps the secondary. And it could be a good defense. I think, like you said, top 5 would be a huge reach. I'm talking like, hey, this is the 12th best defense. And we're pretty happy because even last year when I had good things to say about their defense in my power ratings, it still was like, hey, it's the 20th best defense. It's
not going to be good enough.
It's and the 32nd. I ended with the 32nd best offense, 22nd off defense, I believe, is kind of where I ended at the end of the year. Right. And there were some injuries in there too.
So here's the thing: is bottom 10 defense last year, I think, is fine characterization, but like a lot of their numbers, they were kind of like closer to average. And I was truly trying to figure out, well, like why was perception against these guys? Was it really just that the offense was that put them in that difficult a spot so regularly that they just, we kind of perceived them as worse than they actually were. But there was something pretty telltale as I was digging into their numbers a little bit. Their quarterback pressure rate was solid. Their EPA against the run, solid. Their EPA against the pass, not bad. Their pressure rate, good. Their time to throw against the second shortest in the NFL, which means two things.
Instant separation. I mean, that's what it was, right? That's where my head was going.
You could not. Yes, the coverage was breaking down quickly, and quarterbacks were able to overcome a good pass rush by getting the ball out fast.
Yeah, that was the game plan for everybody, and it worked because nobody could cover anybody. You struggled at both safety spots because you had youth and suck, and then we just didn't get what we thought we'd get out of some of these young corners, and the secondary was that bad. And it became like you said, and Sam's saying it's easy to scheme around a good pass rush if your secondary sucks. Because it's like, well, just get rid of the ball before they get here because 3 of our guys are open anyway. Nobody can cover anybody out there. And that was kind of the game plan against this squad. Yeah. And that's where I think the linchpin is a Debo and Holland and Nubbin. And, if those guys are even like 20% better than we hope, it's a good defense. If they're just meh or one of them's hurt, it's like this is probably a bottom 10 defense again.
The shape of
3 elite pass rushing names.
So that's the thing. The shape of the front 7 is so similar to the Eagles in every kind of metric I've evaluated so far. Right? Like these two units are very comparable, but the Eagles had a top 3 defense because their secondary was awesome and their scheme was good. You and the Giants did not. And so I don't know. You're probably going to be good enough to keep them in games. They're going to be under darlings, I'm guessing again. I don't think that this team is just going to all of a sudden find and explode points wise, because as we're going to get to here shortly, if you're ready to go there, the offensive numbers don't look great again.
Yeah. No, I mean, just finishing up on new faces. They got Amir Smith-Marset re-signed. He was a good returner. A lot of the other signings were just re-signings for depth and whatnot. The Jackson Dart draft pick was, I don't know if it was predictable, but I guess it made sense in the long run. The rest of the draft was deeper down the board because of what they had in the chest. Let's say they drafted the running back Cam Scatabo, which is fun player. I don't know how he translates to the NFL. They got a good offensive lineman in the 5th round, Marcus Bowe, which is somebody that's, they think he might have to compete for a spot based on the rest of the offensive linemen that are playing on this team right now. And then Darius Alexander, another guy that adds depth to the middle. And then it's funny too with Lawrence too, because everything's connected and it's such a system in the NFL. We talk about it. If this works out, the pass rush is good. But if Holland plays well and he's a good coverage safety, then Nubbin showed he's a good run stopper. And it's crazy. Like Dexter Lawrence wasn't, when he came into the league, he wasn't supposed to be this elite pass rusher. He was a really, really good run stopper. He still is. Like they can stop the run as well if things work out in coverage. Like coverage has to work out where they don't have to get all this extra help back there constantly, and the team can play good defense. And like you said, I still think the offense sucks ass, and this would be a really fun under team.
Yeah. I think that's where we're at. So here's one critical note about their process. You ready? Once the Tennessee Titans elected to stick and pick with the first overall pick and take Cam Ward, the jig is up. The Giants don't have an answer at quarterback. They've kicked the tires on 2 pretty sad options that are in the free agent market. They are, they still have Tommy DeVito on the roster. Like, why elect to draft the way that they did? Trade back in. And I guess I kind of want to actually give them a little bit of flowers for the trade for Dart, because if you are making that trade and getting a quarterback there, and you gave up pretty modest and not really that insane compensation, like particularly compared next to like what the Falcons did, right? Like you it looks pretty shrewd, pretty wise. But like if you're gonna be bad this year anyway, and their win total suggests everybody thinks that they're going to be bad again this year. Your schedule is an absolute disaster this year. You don't have an answered quarterback. You're going to end up firing your coach and your GM at the end of the season unless something absolutely insane happens, which doesn't necessarily warrant you changing your mind about these players, right? Like, why not just take it on the chin? Just suck this year. Just tank.
Because one of the people who's, maybe the buck stops here for those picks and that decision, it's his job. Like, I get we do this every fall, or we do this every summer and the fall, where we litigate what was the best play for team building long term. And then we always say, well, yeah, that's nice, but if you're Joe Shane, even if it's a 10% chance that Dart hits and like everyone thinks you're a genius and you get 5 more years up in that office, you take it rather than being like, oh, fuck it, I'll just ride the year out.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, why didn't the guy who signs Shane's paycheck say?
I guess he sold him
clean slate.
I don't know what happened in that back office. I don't think we'll ever see Joe Shane on TV again having a conversation about player personnel after last year. But obviously he sold enough people on this is what we're going to do, and I think we can make this work. That's keeping your career. That's, advocating for yourself. Even if he doesn't fully believe it, he has to believe the lie and sell it to ownership, sell it to Dable, sell it to anybody else who, has a vote in this process.
The path that they pursued, to me, looks less likely to ultimately turn you around than if they had just eaten shit this year.
Yeah, I know. But again, if they eat shit, he's just done.
Yeah, well, he's done regardless, probably. And if he hits on Jackson Dart, was this the masterful Joe Shane trade back in 19? No, he got lucky.
He doesn't know. But I'm saying it's the difference between a 0% chance of having this cushy job next year or 10%.
Yeah, for sure.
10% every time.
Sure.
Like, I get it's the wrong move, but it's not the wrong move.
This is everything about rating these guys this year, which is that like the wrong moves are what these guys will do every week to keep their jobs for your long-term rebuild. That's the wrong move is having these guys as lame ducks. Yeah. So I don't know, man. I think I truly organizationally, this feels like this was a bad. This was a bad
when they gave him the ultimatum, you just knew it was going to be a bad offseason.
Yeah.
Wow, they're going to make self-preservation moves rather than long-term proper moves, and that's what you get. That's bad. It's just a bad job by ownership.
Yeah. Yeah.
Such is life.
They have their first round pick next year, at least, right?
I think so.
The problem is they're probably going to win just enough games, even with this really tough schedule, that it's not going to be QB1. And honestly, they might see enough out of Dart that they squint. They're like, well, we drafted a quarterback last year. Do we need to take one this year? I don't know.
You do the wipe your eyes and it's dangerous.
Like, we really Dart, it was good, but the protection was so bad. Like we need to get that anchor tackle and give Dart a chance to develop. This feels like step 1 of 8 steps in a row that are all like pretty predictable and pretty bad outcomes for the next, mini arc here of the Jackson Dart era, I guess.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't try to predict how good young quarterbacks will be, nor do we know when he'll start. There's not a lot of great spots where like, hey, here's a good spot to insert him into the lineup because, like you said and alluded to, the schedule is rough. If the Cowboys are good, it's extra rough, and they got the NFC North. There's like 2 really winnable games. The rest are all pretty. There's like 2 winnable games, 3 coin flips, and a bunch of tough ones. And every divisional game is tough.
I don't have all of my schedule stuff done yet, so I can't speak intelligently to how often they'll be favored, but I think it's 0.
I think maybe the Saints game, they'll be like a 1-point road favorite.
You think? Wow, what is your Saints number? Oh, baby.
What
is your Saints number?
Who's your Saints day one quarterback?
I think Rattler.
Exactly. Like I'm not big Russell
Is it a
Wilson
minus?
guy.
Are you at like -10 for them?
I don't know what to do with that number for quarterback, because the Giants and Saints at the end of the year were battling for last place with me. It's like, oh man, like this quarterback play can't get worse. And then somehow it did.
Oh, wow.
Hader, Rattler, all that. There was none of that was working. So I maybe favored there. That's probably a pick 'em though. The Saints number is going to be pretty low, man.
I think it's going to be the 8.
I don't want to spend any more time on the Saints today. That was not a good.
Tune in next week on Monday for New Orleans Saints talk. All
right, let's dive into any changes you made. You feel like you need to make for your numbers, because my ratings didn't change a lot.
Let's talk about the quarterback first.
Okay.
Are we being too quick to assume that this will go poorly for Russell Wilson? His autopsy of the 2024 campaign is shaded by a fourth quarter of games that were highly visible and absolute dog shit, right? It was to me, however, shaded significantly by raised expectations of Steelers winning games in the easy half of their schedule, combined with a landing that was impossible. Like they were not ever gonna like the best case they could have hoped for in final 4 weeks of the season was 1-3, and they went 0-4, right? And then a bad playoff loss. And like Wilson, I think wears a lot of the blame, but the Steelers are who we thought they were, and nobody let them off the hook. And they move on from Wilson correctly, but like, I don't know. It's like I guess what I'm just getting at is like, is there a world where he weirdly plays 17 games this year and is, a middling quarterback in this league?
I think there's a 1% chance he plays 17 games, because that's
1%.
That's the chance I put on him being a top 12 quarterback. Like
What's
he has
the fair over-under on him for games? 4.5.
I don't know that they go that early. I think he plays half the season. I think 7.5,
okay.
8.5, somewhere there, because I do believe they want to give Dart time, and it doesn't matter if he's winning or losing games. They know that they're going to give Dart time. They know they have a tough schedule. They know that the expectations are low anyway. I mean, if Russell Wilson finds something and they start winning games, maybe they say like, hey, we're one game out of the playoff hunt. Like we need to stick with this, which would be hilarious, because that's worst case scenario. What are you going to do? Go beat Philly in the playoffs and go to the Super Bowl or something? Go to Detroit and win? Like what are you chasing a playoff dream for? That's so silly when those teams end up in that spot. Yeah. I think it's an upgrade though, because at the end of the year, my numbers were, DeVito, Locke, those, it's an upgrade from there, especially because even when we were on Daniel Jones time, some of the injuries and I don't know what else, but his arm strength went to shit.
His precision down the field was really bad.
Well, and you draft a guy like Hyatt, you have Slayton, who are like the same person, and you say like, hey, we have a guy who can't really throw deep accurately, so you two are useless. And you have a really good wide receiver in Malik Neighbors. He was great. Love him to death. He's elite. He's a top 10 receiver.
Yeah.
And
top 10.
We have 15. I mean, 10's in the realm of possibility this year.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like, you have these deep threats that aren't getting used. You don't use your tight ends. You're bouncing between 2 different running backs and 3 different quarterbacks. Whereas I think Wilson can get some stuff out of them. I mean, people have already said that. And to be fair, this is like the ultimate tempering your expectations. But there's quotes from some of the people from like, what do you call OTAs, and be like, hey, this is the most pocket presence or like huddle presence that I've ever played with. It's like, well, your bar was barely above that. Like if you didn't cut the grass,
he's got more pocket presence than Tommy DeVito. No,
yeah, your bar was
on Thanksgiving in Dallas. Yeah. All right.
So I mean, it's an
okay.
it's an upgraded quarterback, and I believe they have a good offensive mind in their coach.
Okay.
I think we can get something out of the offense. It's not league average. It's still below that, but I had it so low to end last year. It has to be an upgrade.
Brian Dable to me feels very clearly like Josh Allen Merchant at this point.
I think he's good, not great.
Yeah. Russell Wilson did have a couple of moments last year as I bet against the Steelers a lot. He had a couple moments where he was like, I can't believe he did that. I can't believe he made that throw. He drops it in the bucket deep down.
He does have a good deep ball somehow.
Yeah, he drops it in the bucket. And if he can kind of unlock some of that, then go for it. Good. I'm not inclined to believe he will unlock it because this pass protection looks like a problem. And you mentioned it earlier on this podcast. He has a mobility issue. He's not the same, scrambling around, difficult to sack guy anymore. His sack numbers have gotten progressively worse. Would you believe he was tied for 22nd in EPA per dropback last year? Would you guess that?
That sounds about right.
You want to know who he's tied with?
He wasn't horrible.
You want to know who he's tied with? Aaron Rodgers. Which is funny in its own right. But I mean, he beat CJ Stroud, Trevor Lawrence, Drake May, Bryce Young. He was significantly higher EPA per dropback than Daniel Jones. So there might be some there. And I agree with you. Malik Neighbors is a perfect wide receiver one for today's NFL and could be the reason that the offense looks better than we're expecting. But the offensive line is the reason that it's going to look worse than we're expecting. This interior protection, Runyon, JMS Jr. and Van Rotten, not really inspiring.
Are you calling him Van Rotten like as a diss?
No.
Okay.
No.
I think it's Roten. You're just being mean.
Yeah, no. I mean, they have the left side of a Vegas offensive line that was no good 4 years ago in Van Roten and Illuminor. I'm not really riding to the defense of John Runyon or Schmitz, and Andrew Thomas, as you mentioned, is a giant question mark. Evan Neal looks like a failed experiment.
Evan Neal absolutely is a failed experiment. This was one of my lowest ranked O-lines last year. I mean, there was injuries, but it was bad. It feels like it could be an upgrade, but this is one of those that's in pencil because of Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas is very good, but he's missed big time in the last 2 years. Like you said, Evan Neal, they already declined his 5th year. Okay. He's a backup. They're trying to make him a guard now. He's supposed to be the starting right tackle for many, many years. Obviously, big fail. So, and like you said, Illuminor isn't, he's past 30 at this point. That 5th rounder, I mentioned Marcus Bowe. They're talking him to push either him or Van Roten to possibly start. So they're talking about a 5th round rookie possibly starting on one of those right side spots because Illuminor and Van Roten aren't that good. And they're seeing enough from this kid. And then also, like, Thomas isn't even playing. He's probably on camp. He's starting camp on the PUP list for sure. Mm-hmm. So we'll see. Because at that point, if he's not available week 1, then you're moving Illuminor to left tackle. And then you got, like, a swing tackle named James Hudson from the Brown. Yeah. He's not good. He's playing right tackle. And then you're very weak across the whole front.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, the offensive line is like a 2 out of 10.
2. Yeah, is that where you went? Okay, let's go with numbers.
I have a scale. It's like 2 to 4 is where they can end up.
Okay, so
Thomas
again, if this is the first time you've heard us do these, we are going to blast out numbers on a scale of 0 to 10, and you can think of these as percentiles. You can think of them. You can convert them to whatever metric you want, but this is basically expected to represent a normal distribution of player ratings for quarterback, offensive line, skill set, run stop, pass rush, coverage, intangibles, special teams. We have agreed upon kind of generic weights. I didn't stick to that last year, but it was a pretty good. Ended up being pretty dang close to what I think is right. And then we will sum them to have a fair number for a team against a neutral on a given day, as rostered at full strength. As we go through the year and we realize we are right and wrong, we will change our numbers as you have injuries and we debate. Okay, well, you've taken Russell Wilson out, and now it's Jackson Dart. Like, what's a fair for him? We'll just put it in a 1 because we don't know, and see what that does to their overall neutral power rating. And this is a living, breathing, kind of representation of strength of a team as far as making a baseline handicap. A lot of other things go into making plays, but this is as good as you're going to get in terms of a neutral, fair starting point from the way I do this in the years past. So, with that, Andy, on a scale of 0 to 10, where are you with Russell Wilson in terms of expected percentile?
So when we do this, we combine quarterback with offensive play caller.
Yes. And I think you have. I don't think you can get away with. I don't think you can avoid that.
No, it's a group. It's a couple. It's a marriage.
Yes.
I ended the season with a 0 because even with a good, not great play caller,
Drew Lock
with a hapless quarterback. I'm upgrading it to a 3, which is going to move the number because it's one of our heavily, we weight that at 35% of the weighting.
It's big weight. Yeah. Okay. I'm there too. I'm at 3.
Three's where I ended up.
30th. So we're expecting 30th percentile, which, by the way, is where Wilson and Art Smith were last year.
Yeah. For a comparison, that was like, better than Tennessee, worse than the Jets. For last year.
Or about the same as the Jets.
About the same as the Jets.
All right. The skill group for the Giants is a what?
This one was tough.
This one's hard.
This is very, very tough.
Yeah.
Again, I end up at like a 3.5 because you have an absolute star, and I don't know what you have after him. I think the tight end is very good, but Dable doesn't use tight ends. He just doesn't. He doesn't use it.
Wait, so which tight end is good?
Theo Johnson. What's his last name? Am I mixing it up already?
Theo Johnson. You'd know who that is. Theo Johnson,
second year guy.
Yeah, I could have run into him on the street yesterday, and I would not have known that was there.
I feel like I'm getting his last name wrong.
Theo Johnson.
Theo Johnson.
I know nothing about Theo Johnson, but I overall the target share is going to be highly concentrated on Malik Neighbors, and Malik Neighbors fucking rocks. So you got to at a minimum, you're in like the 3.5 range there alone. Now there's not a lot adding to this though. I don't think that there's really much.
Depends how you feel about Tyrone Tracy and the running backs, but like I qualified that earlier. It's a bad offensive line. They were 26th and 27th last year in pass rush win rate and pass block win rate, or run block and pass block win rate. Basically bottom 5 in both the metrics that matter for trying to count it according to the the ESPN stuff. If you look at the individual metrics for the offensive line and any sort of EPA stats, the offensive line is going to hold back the running game too. So I didn't think I could give it a big upgrade, even if you do like Tyrone Tracy.
I have Tyrone Tracy a sniff above replacement level running back. I have Wan'Dale Robinson a sniff above replacement slot. I do not have an especially favorable rating on Slayton or Hyatt. And then the tight end number for Theo Johnson. Shit, man, this guy started 11 games. He did nothing for me.
It's just low usage. Like, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I think he's good. He's a huge body. They just do not use tight ends.
Maybe he's helping in the running game. But whatever the case is, my skill group is, as you, same exact number, 3.5.
Really?
Yeah.
So I like to look at these as a direction as well. And I think I'm at the bottom of my range. Obviously, if Malik Neighbors twists his ankle and he's out for a week, I'm not at the bottom.
Now we're in trouble. Yeah.
But I say, like, if Tracy takes a big step forward as a running back, as the bell cow, if we get something out of Hyatt and Slayton because we have Moonballer back there suddenly and the deep ball is open again, then this can move up. this can certainly move up. But I think right now I'm starting at the bottom of my range, similar to I do with rookie quarterbacks, where it's like, well, I'll start low. We'll assume it sucks. And we can always move it up. And that's where I'm at with the Giants offense. It can get better. It could. It might. But for now, we're starting low.
Okay. Speaking of offensive line, is this a bottom 5 unit in the NFL? I think it is.
I ended the season with like a 2.8 on this. And that's the range they should be in right now because they didn't make improvements. If Andrew Thomas plays, it could go as high as a 4. If he doesn't, it's like a 1.5 or 2. You know, it's so I think 2 to 4 is the range, and I need to know Andrew Thomas's health. So I just stuck a 3 in there for now.
I'm at 2.
Fix that once we know.
I'm at 2. We'll see if that may change, but I'm not running to support that unit. Defense, the total offensive ranking here is this is a bottom 5 offense for me on a good day.
Yeah, I'm a little higher on offensive line, so I have it as my 25th offense.
Okay.
And to be fair, early in this stuff, I haven't fixed the numbers for everybody.
Everyone, right? Sure.
It's close, but shit'll move around a little.
Mine is actually all based on all quantitative at this point, and I'm going to go through and kind of qualitatively turn the dials as I kind of look at how I got where I am for every team. So I will also be changing everything else, but for now at least I'm at like 28 here. Run stop defense number. Oh wait,
coaching.
We go defense, coaching final number, and then you want to talk about.
We'll do it when we talk schedule.
All right.
Maybe we'll do schedule earlier in these podcasts just to go through it quick. I hate putting it at the end.
Sure. Okay.
Real quick on defense. At the end of last year, run stop for me was a 4.5, pass rush was a 5, and coverage was a 3, which is to say that you had the 23rd, 24th best defense. You had some good players, but the coverage was just too bad to make it happen. I'm not making big adjustments to any of those. I'm probably just sticking with something very similar. I haven't made big adjustments because, like we said, I like the Adebo signing. I don't know that it's going to fix the coverage. So the coverage is somewhere between a 3 and a 4 for me, based on probably what I see in camp and preseason.
I'm lower. I'm higher on pass rush than you. I'm lower on coverage. I'm at a 5, 6, and a 2.5 for those 3 values. Which gives me the 20th best defense in the NFL.
Yeah. So I put in 3 for coverage. I put upgraded to 5.5 for pass rush because I do think Abdul Carter's he's very good. And then I'm gonna stick with a 4.5 on pass or run stop.
Okay. Intangibles.
Intangibles coaching. It's kind of weird because I am a Dable guy. I don't think he's a bad coach, but he's in such a weird situation. Like dead duck, lame duck. It doesn't help anything.
No. I don't think you're galvanizing that locker room. I'm at a 1 here.
I have a 3 just because I still think he's a decent coach, and I don't know. They made some changes, but none of them were big. Like basically, you're running back the same coaching staff. They brought in Troy Brown. Like, what do I do? I'll upgrade the special teams a little bit.
Okay, what is your special teams number?
So last year it was a 2.85.
Okay,
and Marsette's good. That's a good returner. He's probably gonna do kicks and punts.
Okay,
but Graham Gano is a good kicker, but he's missed time. Jamie Gillian, not a great punter. He's meh. So this is like a 4.
4. Okay.
You got a reliable kicker, but that's about it.
All right. That takes me to a minus 4.1 for the New York Football Giants.
I'm at 4.5 to the negative.
4.5. It's pretty close. Pretty amazing that last year, I think the Giants in the Commanders were like neck and neck among our worst teams in the NFL. And now this year, the Giants are 7-point dogs on the road at the Commanders week 1. Incredible. Shall we talk schedule and try to find a place to play the Giants in Circa Survivor or play against them several times in Circa Survivor?
Yeah, it might be. It might be.
Week 1 is probably going to be a pretty popular pick against them, right? There's not a lot of week 1 games where you have big old dogs. Cowboys are 7-point dogs. The Giants are 7-point dogs. The Titans are 7.5-point dogs at the Broncos. Oh boy, wow. Cam Ward is making his first ever NFL start probably against the most violent defense in the NFL. Whew. That's
in Denver?
Wild. In Denver. At altitude. Woo-wee.
What
that's going to be
what do you think?
Be a very popular Survivor pick there, I think.
What's the elevation of Miami? Less than 5,000.
It's zero. It's zero. You think he's ever played at altitude? ACC doesn't have, I don't think, any mountains.
West Virginia? That's a Big 12 team. I'm trying to think of teams over there that are in like the Appalachians.
Cam Ward wasn't always in Miami, was he?
No, he's bounced.
Did he play in the West at one point?
Was he in Arizona, or am I thinking of somebody else?
Jaden Daniels was at Arizona.
I'm thinking of Jaden Daniels. They move around so much; it's so hard to remember.
They do. Yeah, I'm totally out of the know.
It depends where you want to use teams. But just looking at somebody you might not be super jazzed to use, but like the Bears on November 9th, hosting the Giants, that might not be a bad Bears spot as a team that. Like looking at all these other teams on their roster, on their schedule, the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Commanders, the Niners, Packers, Broncos. Like, there's a lot of spots to use all those teams. I think it's a spot where you're looking for one of those middling teams if you want to use them in Circa Survivor.
Okay.
Played at Washington State. It's still a Pac-12 team, by the way, guys.
So he probably played Colorado and Utah probably in his career. So he's been to we know Cam Ward has been at altitude in his life. All right. The Giants schedule is an absolute atrocity. Even if they were a team that was expected to do good things this year, this schedule might throw cold water on you. You start with the back-to-back roadies at Washington, at Dallas. You have a primetime game week 3 hosting the Kansas City Chiefs. So Pat Mahomes, welcome to Meadowlands. Then you go Chargers at the Saints week 5. Maybe potential for your first win of the season comes in week 5. You have a primetime Thursday night football game against the Eagles. Feels like we always get an Eagles Giants Thursday night shit sucking terrible game. And this year it's on week 6 at Minnesota. I'm sorry. Then you go at Denver, at Philly, Niners, Bears, Packers, Lions, Patriots, late by Washington, Mini, Vegas, Dallas. There are winnable games on this schedule in the ballpark of 3 or 4. They are spread out mostly later in the season after you have presumably pulled the plug on the Russell Wilson experiment, and it is Jackson Dart time. There is not a lot outside of injury to your divisional opponents that I think opens the door for you to have a 500 season on this schedule. And there's just a lot of really good and experienced quarterbacks that are like would be surprising if they just took a big step backwards and weren't able to slice and dice your coverage that sucks. So the Giants, I think, are in for a fair amount of losses this year.
Yeah, the bull case for the Giants to make like their win total would be the Chargers aren't good. You got to win. You got to win. You have to win that game. I believe it's 5.5.
The New York Giants are 5.5. The under is juiced minus 146. Over is juiced plus 127. Ugh.
Yeah, you have to beat the Saints. You have to beat the Chargers. You have to beat the Raiders. You have to beat probably the Bears. Maybe that Niners game is when you steal. The Patriots game, that's still a very incomplete roster.
Sure. Patriots all out. Niners would be pretty shocking.
It's at home. That's
Shanahan offense
that's a travel
absolutely
spot.
knife these guys. I would guess. The Giants, by the way, are minus 1286 to miss the playoffs. That feels like a safe bet. 140 to 1 to win the Super Bowl feels like dead money. Yeah, I think ultimately like a positive outcome for this team. Oh, 1 hour. We went over. God damn it. I was sure we were going to land the plane.
Last team with a win? They got to be close to favorites there. I don't think you're getting a good price.
The last team with the win is going to be decided by whoever wins that Giants Saints game. Which means if they tied, that would be hilarious.
Oh my God.
Oh, then Dimitrov retire and Sinner advances as is down 0-2. He did.
I got to figure out what the injury was there. Something bad had to happen.
Wow.
He tore his pec, huh?
He tore his pec?
Well, it's hard to play tennis with a torn pec. Although I did you watch 7 Days in Hell? I always watch that when Wimbledon starts. That guy played left-handed.
Oh, no. That sucks. I hate that. Dimitrov's game is so appealing visually. And he's bummer he's going to be gone. Shoot. I thought Sinner was going to get his ticket punched. God damn. Damn it.
Realistic expectations for the Giants then. And when are you putting
14.
Dart? Now that we've looked at the schedule, where do you put Dart in?
So this is the thing. People were
that Saints game is
you want to know how much ink was you want to know how much ink was spilled and how much breathless opinionating and bloviating there was about when do you put Drake May in behind this just atrocity of an offensive line.
They just throw him to the wolves.
They just throw him in the really difficult stretch of the schedule. And you know what? It was fine. And I'm not saying that like everything will be fine with with Jackson Dart, because I have zero clue if this guy can play NFL level football. But I can tell you that there is no good time. So the sooner the better to start getting him some reps. Yeah.
6 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Get through that Philly game. You have a mini bye before you go at Denver, at Philly.
Yep.
You'll have already prepared for Philly once. So he'll have already kind of sat through the prep for Philly once. He gets at Denver, at Philly. Those are two insanely tough defenses but they bend, don't break a little bit with the Fangio style kind of coverage. So maybe those are fine spots to get him a little bit of confidence, but you probably lose those games by margin. Then
you're putting together a game plan for him to go 15 for 20 for 115 yards, a touchdown, a pick, and a 25-point loss.
Yeah. And then I think you probably are banking that win against the Saints, and then you probably win 3 more games down the stretch with Jackson Dart under center. And the other bad thing, by the way, for them is that all of their games against winnable opponents are on the road. Like their home games are just going to get they're going to get their skulls crushed.
They were 1-8 at home last year. I mean, probably there's a good chance they go 0-8 at home.
Yeah. So I wouldn't spend any time thinking or worrying or really putting any stress on when will be the right time for Dart to be inserted. They will know. It'll probably be like you pointed to after week 6, and whether it's Dart or Winston or Wilson under center for these games in the middle here, particularly your home games, I don't think it's going to matter because you're probably not winning anyway. So, you're picking second or third in the draft next year with a 4-win team.
Yeah, I think, and that's a big part of, obviously you have to prep and you have to be ready for every opponent, but a big part of OTAs, camp, preseason, and into the season is integrating him as much as you can with the ones and getting him ready. Like that's the whole season revolves around making sure he's ready when it's his time to step in. Because he's going to play.
Honestly, you should just have him do all of his snaps with Malik Neighbors and Wan'Dale Robinson. Like, build chemistry between those 3 guys, and then they all know what each other are thinking. And then when you get to the middle part of the season, flip the switch and see what happens.
Yeah. He has taken some snaps with the ones. Not a lot, obviously. Mostly it's Wilson, but Wilson will start the season. I mean, that's just a foregone conclusion. But this kid will play. This kid will play at some point. We'll see when, and might not make a big difference to the win total, but we get to see what he has. And it'll be fun because he gets a new offensive coordinator next year. Why is Jameis Winston on this team? There's no idea.
We all wonder Maple Money.
Honestly, like if Dart looks good in preseason and Wilson's playing fine, there's a chance Winston wears 2 jerseys this year. Like he might get traded or
Sure. Or get cut. Yeah.
because DeVito's fine as a third guy. Like he sucks, but I don't know if somebody will give you like a 6th rounder for Winston. Do you really need him?
I don't know. It's just a weird team. It's just a weird roster, and I hate the vibes. Hate them. I hate these lame duck vibes. Yeah. Lame duck vibes with a quarterback. Lame duck vibes with a quarterback project and a schedule from hell. Like none of this is fun.
No, they're going to end up in a spot where they're drafting first, and they're going to have the quarterback, but they're happy with Dart, and they're going to do the wrong thing again.
I love it. Yeah, that would be great. That would be great fun. The big question is, will that quarterback have the last name Manning? And will that influence decision making? I think there's like 3 or 4. Supposedly, there's like 3 or 4 quarterbacks who could like pop.
Oh, for sure.
The LSU kid, I think, is really well regarded.
Nussberger. I looked at some odds on that. And dug in a little.
Who else is there?
It was the
Alabama kid, Georgia kid.
Was there the Penn State kid from the other year? Didn't turn out.
Penn State kid. He looks physically like a Josh Allen, but I don't know if he can throw.
He just kind of sucks. Like
yeah,
I watched him play like one game. That's my takeaway. I'm not 100% sure. Arch Manning is like Musburger. Is it Musburger? I thought it was Nuss.
I think it was Nussmeyer. Yeah,
Nussmeyer. I said Nussburger. I was close. Oh, Cade, is it Cabe Klubnik?
Sure, why not?
Sure, college football. All right, that's the Giants. If we missed anything, hit us in the comments. I'm sure we did. It was the first one of the season. I have way more notes than this, but a bunch of it was pretty much immaterial.
We were very close on our rating for them.
Yeah, I think it's correct. Like they should be slightly better, but they still should suck ass.
-4. You were -4.5?
4.5.
We'll keep track of all these, and we'll circle back at the end of the division to talk about the overall shape of the division, which is going to be weird for the NFC East.
Yeah, I think so. Definitely with the top 3 teams and where they sit right now. So, All right, we'll be back tomorrow, same time with another team. I'm not telling you who, because I don't know. I see
it's Dallas. It's Dallas. All right, where's the outro?
Thanks for hanging. If you listened on a podcast,
we'll be
rate,
back
review,
tomorrow.
Subscribe, share, go to Vegas, join the contest. You just sleep at the tables. You've done it. Or the